Sego Sewaguego, Sarah Jungyet. I'm a first year student at the Ungwehua Midwives Collective Apprenticeship Program. And Scott Peters, my husband, is going to show us how he makes fry bread.
To go along with my butternut squash soup, like I was saying before. I just do it with the sifter because it seems to make it fluffier when you add it to the grease. Rule of thumb, I guess, from what I was told from other fry bread makers, is it's usually 1 tablespoon of baking powder per cup of flour. So it's all your preference. You can play around with that measurement. We'll even add a little bit of salt. The milk, it seems to make it more fluffy. I use lactose-free 2%. Whole milk is fine. So I made a well in the middle, put it in there. And then what's going to happen is you're probably going to adjust your wet ingredients as you start to blend in everything else. Whether or not you need more. Half a cup of water. And half a cup of maple syrup. Gives you 2 cups of your wet ingredients. And here's where you're going to see whether or not you need more wet ingredient or more flour. And that's where your cooking time will vary depending on your stove. It's going to take a little bit longer with the milk in there to cook properly, so you want to keep it on a nice low heat. If it browns too fast on the outside, you're going to get all squishy doughy in the middle.
Almost perfected your recipe, you mean?
Almost, after years. The first time I ever made this, it was like hockey pucks.
Yes, it was. Even the dogs wouldn't eat it.
They wouldn't even play with it. So another thing is, what I was taught was you don't really want to knead it so much. So this is what consistency I'm kind of looking for when I make my bread. It's kind of crusty and everything, but I don't mind because it comes out fluffier. I like it fluffy like clouds. And then with this, I'll just spread it out. I put some flour down on here because it's still kind of wet and sticky. I don't want it to stick totally to the cutting board I'm using just to lay it out. Usually about 1 cup. I don't measure. It's just, I'll put a little bit of oil in until it just covers the bottom or a little bit more than the bottom. I don't want it floating in there. So just like that, and then, because I know my stove top here is a little bit higher burning, I'll put it on mine to about 2. So a nice low heat for this, because I know that mine, like I said, burns a little bit higher. So back to the fry bread, what I do here is just, like I said, we got about 5 people usually in the house, so I try to make 5 rolls and then just cut that in half, and it turns into 10. And I have 2 pieces of fry bread for everybody.
Cookie cutters?
You can use whatever you want. A lot of people use cups and make their little circles. Me, I don't like to waste any of the bread, so I use everything just by cutting it into strips like this. If the grease is ready, these will be my 2 test pieces. And if you want, you can even stretch it out a little bit more, make it a little bit more wider, longer. You can already see that first part browning on the side. My heat was kind of a little bit high, so I turned it right down to low. What I try to do is at the same time, that's the other thing, is your pan kind of makes a difference if you can use a cast iron skillet. If not, use what you have. And be very careful when putting it in, because it does hurt if you get that grease on you. So that That first piece I put in, you can already see it's kind of cooked too fast.
So it'll be doughy in the middle, possibly.
I turn the heat down, and what I'll do is if they do cook too fast, I'll put them on a plate to sit for a bit. I'll cook the rest of mine, the other pieces I have, and then at the end I'll put them back in. I know a lot of people don't like to recook like that, but I'll do it just to make sure that it's not doughy in the middle. So you see I turned the heat down, and this one's already not cooking as fast. That's like how you want it. This last piece I put in, probably not even as brown as those ones yet. Took a little bit longer, but that's what you want. And then because the flame on the skillet is somewhere over here, it does make a difference in how it cooks. So I move it around every once in a while. Like I said, those would be my test pieces. Usually the youngest kid gets that. They don't mind the doughiness, or they don't even notice. And even these, if you want more pieces, you can just cut up your strips, or that's what I do too sometimes, is instead of cutting it in half, I'll make it into threes. And then that gives you a little bit more, especially since we're having it with soup. Usually I make corn soup with this, or with my macaroni soup, or any kind of soup, so I usually make this bread with it.
So you usually cook 3 pieces per.
3 at a time, because if you put too many in, it kind of reduces the heat, makes it a little bit, it just affects the way it cooks. I'm more comfortable just with 3, and that's usually what I fit in the pan anyways, no more. Because of the sizes like this, I can fit like 4 if I make them smaller, like I just cut them up there, you see. So there's that third one we put in. It's not quite burnt, but it's nice and brown.
So about 3 or 4 minutes each.
About that, 3 minutes each side. And then again, it depends on the flour you use. If you're using brown flour, wheat flour, or different types of flour, it'll depend. I've only ever used white and brown. The brown made a difference, and that you had to cook it really long, not really much longer, but it was just, yeah, it made a difference. More like 4 or 5 minutes each side.
Done?
Done and done.
Ni all for watching. Oh no.